who is a player that is annoying to play against?
Last year it was Schalke, because they were camping Broken Blade so hard, it was bad situation for me.
I'm thinking from the junglers, but junglers are bleh. This split, so...
Self-made, and you almost have him, and then he escapes.
I would say Jankos. I feel like if I just f*** up, my laners will just get insta-boomed by him. And then I'll feel sad for them, you know?
Alfari.
Probably Alfari gonna be annoying. From the junglers, I don't have people, but like, yeah, there is like a lot of laners who I really like to invade your jungle for fun.
Larsen. It's annoying because I like to kill. I don't know, he's just too safe all the time.
Humanoid is just like crazy aggressive, and you don't know if he has someone backing him up or if he's just inting.
Humanoid. He's always moving from mid lane, like you cannot give him a push, like he's always gonna move.
Caps. I know he's just gonna be laughing and like smiling, and he wants payback.
Well, before it was Hilly, but now I guess Caps.
Upset. I mean, at least now they don't have TP, so it's gonna be much easier versus them.
Hylissang.
Hylissang. This guy is gonna stop your recall no matter what.
Hylissang. He doesn't care if he dies, he just wants to annoy you.
Hylissang is pretty annoying. Usually you recall under tier 1, but you need to recall under tier 2. Hook you, just to tilt you and walk away.
Weird champion pool.
Now that Buipo is gone, who is it?
Well, I would say Leader, but he's not in LEC anymore.
White Knights?
Joja.
Broken Blade.
Oh, maybe Unforgiven.
I guess Unforgiven plays the Katus and Zareth a little bit.
Oh, maybe Wunder actually. I would say Wunder.
See, the thing is, I mostly interact with top laners, but none of them have a weird champion pool.
Probably Adam.
Adam,
I guess.
Oh, I guess Adam, yeah.
Zanzara?
Zanzara?
Zanzara.
I just think Zanzara, honestly.
Myself.
Underrated.
Ooh. It's a good one.
Niski.
I would say Vitio, yeah.
I think me.
Me.
Nuktak.
Kaiser.
Maybe Larsen. People kind of forgot he's good.
Humanoid.
Caps.
Patrick, maybe?
Rika. Karzi.
Underrated is definitely Labrov. Or actually maybe people rate Labrov high. Maybe I'm trolling here.
Labrov.
Maybe Labrov.
I think it might be G2 bot lane. FLICKR.
I think Promiscuous is underrated. I think it's easy for the community to just pick someone and say they're good or they're bad, when often, I mean, especially in a team game, there's like a lot of factors going into it, right?
Overrated.
Promiscue.
My favorite category.
Who is overrated?
Treats.
Torgamas.
Flacket. And I would say me. I'm overhyped. Maybe overrated? I don't know. But overhyped, I am.
I think Perks is overrated. People like putting him, he's like the best player, you know, but I think he didn't even show that the match at NNA, you know, so he's like a good team leader, but as a player, I think he's not like insane, he's good.
Humanoid.
Vitality, but like I'm thinking about the player. Me.
Adam.
Wunder.
Me. Misfits.
Maybe Razok?
I will just say myself. I feel like, okay, I'm a good player, I'm a decent player, but sometimes, and I never make mistakes, and then like, I could stomp Canyon or something like this, and I'm like, chill, bro.
Welcome to Berlin, Germany, home of the LEC and week 4 of the spring season as we're approaching the end of the first round robin. Now last week we saw Rogue extending their win streak to 7 in a row, and they're looking to complete the clean sweep of the first half this week. My name is Dracos, and I'm joined by Naimura and Vedius, and of course the mysterious man behind us is none other than the one who puts the K into cool, Colleen, joining us for all the interviews this week. That was the cringiest possible way I could ever introduce a human being. Colleen, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm very excited to see what we're going to have today. I mean, especially that first game there's a lot on the line for that one.
Absolutely going to be the case. Naimura,
I mean, he gets to be like the Wizard of Oz on the screen and stuff. What do I get?
He's the man behind the curtain. You get, to be fair, more immediate screen. We see him for 30 seconds, and then he goes bye-bye until it's time for the sad interview after the game. So you get a little bit more time.
All right. We'll take that one then. Yeah, no, it's fantastic to be here.
Excellent. All right, well then let's have a closer look at Rogue, of course, the team who remain undefeated after passing their biggest test versus Fnatic and Vitality last week. Naimura, what were your read on this lineup?
So if I were to very concisely put their success into a couple of words, it is impeccable timing. You need Malorang to be somewhere, and he is directly there, whether that's defending and pushing lane, getting there for a gank, counter gank, you name it, he's there.
I think that we just continue to see the same strengths that we saw from them last split with the slight evolution. You still see crisp, reliable laners performing the way that they're expected to, along with an evolution in how they're approaching their mid game, and whether that is a direct result of Malorang joining the squad or whether or not the team has just found better ways to get around their rogue time issues, the team has ultimately showcased an evolution. The question is, can they maintain that as other teams around them continue to level up here in the split?
Absolutely a fair question, and I think it's just, again, we've said this point a million times, and we do have to remind ourselves of it. I'll be the last one to say it this week, gentlemen, I promise, but this was not a team that we expected to do as well as they did, but after coming off another 2-0 week, if they get one here, one more 2-0 week, that'll be the first half entirely clean, 9-0, tied for second. Fnatic, of course, holding first, 18-0, a tough one to match, but certainly a challenge to look forward to on the opposite side. Speaking of Fnatic, suffering their first 2 losses of the season, falling to Rogue and their arch rivals G2.
Yeah, it was a bit of a rough week for Fnatic. There were question marks coming into last week, largely because while Fnatic hasn't really been tested, they did end up falling short to Rogue, and by dropping those 2 games, it was a bit questionable as to like, what does this Fnatic squad look like, especially when the expectations were so high on this roster coming into the split. But I think that what we're seeing is still an element of growing pains for this roster. There are still many new key members that are still figuring out how they want to work together and play the game, and I think that we are still seeing elements of that, especially from last week.
Now, I kind of view Fnatic as a bit of a Picasso of the LEC. Like, they have confident creativity, particularly in that top lane and that support, but they have strong basics too. Now, what we saw in that last week is, again, those kind of growing pains where, yes, the creativity's there, but when someone with very good fundamentals faces up against them, they don't always have that same room for maneuver that they've been used to in the earlier weeks.
Absolutely, and I think you see that so much in some of those mid lane ganks where, Caps kind of gets away with murder, the Ghost comes out, he barely managed to escape, Razork kicking himself, and when some of those things goes wrong, Fnatic can still be a team that struggles. Of course, checking in on the standings, G2 and BDS both scoring 2-0s last week, and I want to look at both these teams and talk a little about the success that they have been able to have, because I think for G2 Esports, cool to see the 2-0, cool to see it against Fnatic, but BDS, I think surprising after what has been a struggle of a season.
And I love that you alluded to that kind of like Caps taking Ghost, because actually, you look at BDS, you look at G2, and they found success in similar ways, at least from the same start point. That mid-jungle 2v2, not taking a teleport in the mids, taking a combat summoner instead, getting them into the thick of things very early on, and unlocking the map was pivotal to their 2-0s last week.
And I think in particular, we look at Synkrov on the side of BDS. He was a player that actually had pretty high expectations coming into the split, especially after his last year in the LFL. But his early game has been impeccable last week, and he really did stand out along with how well he worked with Nuclear Int. And I think coming into this week, he's a player that we are going to have to keep our eyes on, and just a jungler that is another one of those, he's very clearly smart. And, you know, we always have those every year. You know, the analysts come on like, guys, he's really smart. And, like, it's not always the easiest to explain because a lot of the decisions that he makes aren't as obvious, but he is another one of those junglers that is just really smart and is very fun to watch.
So what happens when you just, like, randomly dies? It's like, it's just beyond you. You don't understand it.
Yeah, you're not smart enough. I'm sorry. This play is just beyond you.
To be fair, you need a very high IQ to understand these junglers.
It's true. It is true.
All right. Very self-indulgent comments about EU junglers aside. They did only manage to beat the bottom 3 teams here. Excel, XK, Astralis. Lost everyone else so far, so I think this is a huge hurdle. G2, they've shown a lot. They've beaten top teams. But BDS, we're still waiting to see where we can set expectations for them, because ultimately, you're not making playoffs just beating those 3 teams. You're going to need to take more games off the top teams and against the teams in contention. That said, Naimura, you're not our only special guest joining the week. It's not only Cooling either. A new champion is also making their debut today, zooming onto the Rift for the first time in all major regions, none other than Zeri. And we've decided to combine both of these two together for a Zeri breakdown. Naimura, take it away. Wow. That was fast.
Things are very fast here. Okay, all right. good. All right, there was meant to be an AR model, but it's just disappeared off. It zoomed off because it just got a little thunderstruck, and the LEC might just be 2 this week as they plug in the AC ADC power supply of Zeri into the bot lane. So this week's LEC will be the first chance to see Zeri in the top flight professional League of Legends worldwide. So it's a long way to the top if you want to shock and roll, because Zeri doesn't do some of the things that current meta marksmen bring to the table. But Zeri is fairly competent in lane with her 800 range Q, which is called Burst Fire, which turns her right clicks into a spell that slows on max charge and does a burst of damage too, and replaces her Q with a multi-part skill shot auto attack for most intents and purposes, which in turn can become charged for her next few shots to deal extra damage and pierce through enemies hit after dashing with her E. Okay, so taking all of that into account, where Zeri really shines largely falls into 2 situations. The first being where she fires off that W, that lightning skill shot zap, across terrain to slow an unsuspecting enemy, kicks off by dashing into a wall with that E again, and chases down her quarry with that right click passive slow, and also all of the damage that comes with it. Putting all that together, her catch potential on overextended targets is actually really lethal. Okay, that's the first of these situations. And the second one you've probably seen on Reddit already. The Zuma Zeri's teamfight ultimates. Zeri's ultimate Lightning Crash does do decent damage in a burst around her and adds a chain lightning effect onto her auto attacks, dealing additional magic damage to nearby targets. But that's not all. Arguably, these aren't even the strongest parts of her ult, because when you zap people with that initial cast, you get 3 stacks of overcharge per enemy hit, giving 2% stacking movement speed, and then you gain extra stacks per enemy hit with charged Qs. In short, she gets fast. Like, really, really fast. And I'm not entirely convinced that Summoner's Rift doesn't turn into a magical green hill zone for Zeri, or rather a highway to hell for the opposing team. But the end result is that if you don't have sufficient CC to lock Zeri down, it doesn't matter that she's not the best scaling ADC in terms of raw damage output, because you can't stop her doing damage. She'll be switching off your PC's power supply for you while she kites circles around the map. Finishing this off and wrapping things up, got to stop in with items, because Zeri's item builds largely interact with her Q, Burst Fire again, so we're just going to take another second to go back to that and see why some of these items are so important. So this Q auto attack thing is reduced in cooldown by attack speed down to a minimum of 1.5 seconds, so kind of like Yasuo Yone, and after that her extra attack speed is converted fairly well into attack damage. So with that in mind, Triforce is the accepted wisdom for a mythic item on Zeri, which has absurd synergy with the repetitive strain injury you'll be getting from slamming that Q button a billion times again. And then after that, you're looking for a Zeal item to maximize efficiency through that same ability stack conversion. So as a quick note, in patch 12.2, we did see the hotfix to Zeri, which means that she's not shooting to thrill with 3 times the voltage with the Runan's Hurricane, but it's still a pretty efficient item on her, so expect to see some of it, and we're likely to see actually outside of that Phantom Dancer, because it is very, very efficient when you do get those that passive stacked up and up to that extra attack speed. So beyond that, you get to that third item slot. A lot of fighter items give Zeri the extra beef to brawl it out, so we're back in Black Cleaver's territory for its armor shredding capabilities. Her Q immediately stacks it to its maximum due to its multi-part nature, because of course it does. All in all, expect a few teams to test the electrified waters with Zeri this weekend. There's a storm brewing, so you best get to cover.
Dang. This champion seems broken, but I liked your carpal tunnel conversation. BD, I hope you're watching. We can get a sponsor for those like armband things that people have got to wear. You know what I'm talking about. It's prime time to invest in the carpal tunnel armband, Zeri enthusiast. That's all I'm saying. Very high APM champion. Of course, not sure how good Zeri would be at flipping burgers, however, which is an important skill here in the LEC because our teams are certainly great at it. So let's check out the best of the best in today's edition of LEC Burger Flip. If you've never caught the segment before, here's a quick reminder how it works. We're going to show a play. We're going to pause it at a certain time, and my analysts are going to tell us if they should go for the flip or not. With that in mind, let's take a look at the first clip here. Leona will cue it up for us. That's a sausage. Okay. We're getting closer. LEC sausage flip. Should Excel flip the Baron? Here's the pause, boys. Now you might be thinking, I remember which Baron attempt this is, but there were many, and many of them were catastrophic. Which one is it, boys?
Okay, wait, who are they playing against? Which one is that? That's the Mad?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the immediate thing is, I see Lee Sin on the other team, so I'm like, flipping is potentially disastrous here. That's my first thought, but you have got a really low HP, and someone's blocking out already. I'd go for it.
I think in this situation, the flip is not that bad. I think the flip's not the worst, but I do think it's risky. I would flip this. Yeah. If I knew what the goal differences were at this point in time, then I would sit there and say, like, if they're in the lead, then no. But if they're even,
here, okay. Well, let's see what happens, Mr. Day. Let's see if you would be losing all your LP in a moment's notice.
Does he have Q?
Because there's the cage.
He has Q.
Ooh, important to note, Xin Zhao Ultimate coming out there. There's still a Lee Sin in the pit. That is what we like to call a bad flip. That was a bad flip. That burger, overdone, underdone.
Executed.
If Lee Sin has Q around Baron, which is below like a third HP, I'm like, maybe don't do that.
You would think that. But clip 2, let's see. There's another Lee Sin.
The same game, yeah.
Same game, no. All right, should Misfits flip for the finish? Why end here? Let's take a look at the pause.
Oh yeah, I would end this game. I would end this game.
I absolutely would too, and I'd love to pay particular attention to that cannon minion and see if that thinks you should flip the game as well, actually.
All right. Yeah, the bad guy in this clip is actually the cannon
minion. It's a cannon minion.
Well, I think when you look really closely, there's a lot of bad guys.
Cannon says you shouldn't flip.
Cannon not interested. Cannon hitting the thing. Important to notice Broken Blade. Look at that. Look at that. Ooh, E flash out. Does not die. How is it possible, one would ask, with so many champions stacked on top of him? Doesn't happen, but this to me, and I could be wrong, I talked to Renato about this a little bit. This one feels a little bit like miscoordination.
Yeah,
on their side.
It was an execution error, yeah. I think. I think the decision to end the game, especially with 2 enemies dead, 5v3 with a Baron buff.
It's important that the flip is a team flip. One man cannot make burgers on his own. All 5 players need to make them together. It really is a team effort. Last clip here. This is the Whippa flip. Or the Whippa flip.
Hang on, who's playing?
What? Excuse me? Okay, we're going
cross-regional. We know you watch LCK LPL, but do you watch LCS? Not ready for this one.
I do,
all right.
but with popcorn.
Hang on. There are options.
He's TPing in, and we're going to ask you what happens next. Whippo gets turned on and dies. Historically, can happen. Okay. His team dies, and he walks away. Ooh, also very historically, Whippo. Or he one-shots the Varus, and they win the fight.
It's C. It's 100%
A, B, or C. A, B, or C. He's going to one. You think he's going to one-shot the Varus?
It's a Whippo's good criminal moment.
The Varus.
All right, let's play it. Is he going to run the? Is he going to one-shot the Varus? Let's find out.
I think Whippo's going to one-shot the Varus.
He's next to a wall. He's a grave.
He's the TP,
looks pretty bad.
Boom. Biggity. Bam.
Oh look, you're sitting next to a wall.
Technically,
You're both wrong. He shot him 4 times. Trick question, production. No, but obviously, well played to Whippo. If you missed lock-in finals, the man was an absolute monster and was for most of that tournament. The Whippo Aatrox coming back out, certainly something to keep your eye on over there in the LCS as they start the regular season. But of course, focusing back on the LEC. Game 5 today features Mad Lions and Fnatic, 2 teams full of players who could absolutely achieve Employee of the Month at your local burger store. It's the finals rematch. It's a battle between the former and current kings of Europe, and it's one that we have to take a look at.
I think in the last year, when we had 2 championships, I think Humanoid played really huge parts about that.
That's 4! Humanoid, you absolute monster!
Mad Lions, I mean they won last year, right? But they lost 2 pieces that I considered pretty eccentric for a team. I think they meant a lot to them.
We should win the LEC because we just have the best players on every row.
Oh my god, the footwork! Oh! Are they gonna get him? No! You absolute madland! There's the corner of the Forge God coming out, and though Cats can jump across the Cataclysm. Holy!
Zanzar should get taken down, immediate chain CC, nothing else in return. Wonder immediately trying to get back on a day or will not connect on the shuriken flip.
It's gonna leap in anyway! Melioya, and again another combo. Perseus gets instantly deleted.
They will be surprised because I think our new 2 new rookies are they are really good players, and I think they will show that they can compete with the best.
Now, the clash between Mad and Fnatic is also a clash of Spanish junglers. Elyoya versus Razork, both of them starting their careers in the Spanish ERL, the Superliga. Now, to get more insight on their history, as well as checking in on the current state of the Superliga, I'm joined from Noah from the LVP broadcast. Welcome. How is everything over there in Spain? There's a lot of hype around the league right now. How are you feeling?
Everything is pretty crazy here. Thanks for asking. League is as stacked as ever. Some teams shining more than others, but one of them above the rest.
Yeah, I think we'd certainly have to see that as we move later. But before we talk more about the Superliga, I would like to talk more about this jungle matchup. I'm incredibly excited for Elyoya and Razork. What's the history here? What's the rivalry? Because I think for a lot of people, we just know these players coming into the LEC, but their history domestically can show us even more.
Both Elyoya and Razork have very similar backgrounds. They both started playing in the Spanish amateur scene, Razork in Superliga 2nd Division in 2017, Elyoya in the Circuito Tormenta in 2019, and yeah, both became the best in the roles during their time here and both won the Superliga, but Razork was a veteran in Spain when he left for the LEC, and we wondered if there was ever going to be another talent like him. And suddenly this guy came in. He was playing for Movistar Riders Academy, but got promoted to the main roster after a very shy Iberian Cup in 2019, and we expected the usual rookie not guy speed running the league in 2 splits. We had never them clashing in Superliga, and that's why this matchup is extra exciting for the Spanish community. They grew up here separately, they met in the LEC, and now they both represent 2 of the most strong teams in the league.
Incredibly exciting. Cool to see 2 different generations of incredible jungle talent come out of Spain and now face each other, even if we never got that head-to-head rivalry in the Superliga. And certainly, I'm glad to hear that it wasn't just us that were like, where did this El Yoyo guy come from? Because similar to Unforgiven this year, we're just blown away that this guy was so incredibly talented and so successful right off the bat. But focusing in on Superliga, talk to me about, is anybody dominating? Are there any players we need to keep our eye on? What's the story right now in the Superliga?
You just have it there. We have Fnatic Team Kesu pretty much clapping everyone, undefeated after 8 matches, but their game versus Heretics next Monday is gonna be a banger, and you really don't want to miss that one. If they win, that would mean that they will have no head-to-head records lost, and play was pretty much secured, and it's not even half of the season. It's crazy. It feels like they're a step or 2 above the rest. They have rough games, don't get me wrong, but in the end, their nexus hasn't fallen yet. We knew this team was going to be super strong, but this is just too much. Also, the new pieces like Oscar in the top lane, Baka in the mid lane, and also Crusher, their coach coming from UCAM, look like fitting perfectly. In the end, we have a lot of new additions to the league. Fnatic, Barca, Heretics, Koi, Bisons, and all of them are pretty strong. The league is as stacked as ever, I told you, but it seems like for now, we do have a king.
And hey, look, Fnatic fans denied the perfect split last weekend versus Rogue. Check out the Superliga. Maybe it's a possibility there. Last thing, quick hits I have to know from you. I got to talk a little about Koi. Because if you know nothing about the Superliga, you know about eBuy. So I need to know, Koi, are they hot right now? Should we be hyping up Koi? Are they doing okay? What are your thoughts?
Oh, they are having rough days. They lost 4 of the last 5 games, so they are having very rough weeks. They lost very hard games. They have even games. They look like super dominant in the beginning, but suddenly something happened. We really don't know what's wrong with the Koi guys. They really need to find themselves once again if they want to, challenge the top teams. Because right now it's Fnatic's Academy, but Heretics and Barca are right behind Fnatic, and Koi is falling.
Ooh, difficult position to be sure. But thank you so much for the update. Excited to see how this pans out, how the Superliga develops in the weeks to come. Good luck with the broadcast. I mean, hopefully you get more bangers. We'll see if Fnatic gets taken out. But of course, in the meantime, thanks for coming on. Of course, heading back to the desk. Interesting, all these histories, all this. The thing is there's like one good Welsh player, and I can't reference my American heritage because what is it worth here? So whenever we get to talk about regionalism, I feel a little bit out of my element. But
do
it's
I reveal
so cool.
my half Welsh heritage here as well? Is that a timely place to put it? Or
the Welsh are coming to take everything. It's our time,
yourself.
Daniel.
I don't know how to deal with
Onto
this.
the schedule.
Onto the schedule. Save me. Yay, Alfari. That's the Welsh that I know. All right, let's take a look at the schedule. Some pretty exciting games coming up ahead of us. Undefeated Rogue, obviously looking to keep that streak. BDS and G2 both 2-0 last week. But Naimura, what's the most exciting game to you?
So we mentioned a little bit before, but for me, G2 versus BDS is a really kind of good look into kind of like the class of 2019 and now the class of the current year as well from the Grab school of thought. We talked about the mid-jungles and how they are stylistically taking the same summoner spells, trying to play through the mid-jungle in the same way. And it's really interesting to see if the new kids in the block can try and give a good knock to the old gods.
Absolutely. I don't know what to expect from BDS. I think we touched on it. We're going to touch on it.
They're a dark horse for me right now because I feel like that we're seeing the new team struggle against the better teams. They beat the other teams around them, though, so they clearly have good core expectations in terms of what they can bring to the Rift. The question is, how can they keep that growth trajectory going? And obviously, you have a lot of trust in Grabs and the coaching staff behind him to be able to develop young talent. The question is, can they actually then convert that into wins against the teams that they really need to try and beat if they want a chance of playoffs?
That's great. Or can Adam play more weird stuff? That's also what I'm looking at. Love the Adam champion pool. First game of the day, of course, though, features Astralis and their mid lane Dayor, a rookie who has a speedrun path into the LEC.
I created my account 8 years ago when I was 10. I hit Challenger when I was 15. I started my competitive career 7 months ago, so I was actually never thinking about going pro. I was just playing a league daily and hitting Challenger, 1000 IP, and going even higher and stuff like that. And then Fnatic just picked me up. I mean, for sure it was a big jump at first, coming from Division 3 to Fnatic, playing in EU Masters, but at first I wasn't even nervous at all because I didn't even realize how big the step actually was. I wouldn't say that I'm the biggest control mage freak, but I'm starting to learn them. I love playing Ryze. I think it's right now my most fun champion to play. And besides that, still Silas and TF are also really nice champions I love to play. Outside the game, I love to listen to music, and I think that's the biggest hobby I have besides gaming. That's it. I have never followed esports really, like before playing it myself. But of course you hear the name Perks, like, even if you don't watch competitive, so I heard a lot about him and I'm probably scared the most of him.
Honestly,
That
I
was
love
so cute. I love that.
He has not. He just doesn't know who people are. We're gonna be like, wow, Dayor versus Rookie, and he's gonna be like, who? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're all gonna be like, oh my god, you can't do it, Dayor.
This is the Xiaohu thing all over again.
Yeah, it's funny to us as well because we've been in esports for years now.
Yeah.
So to then have new generations of people who are just like, oh wow, who are these people? Like there are people I've never heard of. Expeke.
Yeah.
Expeke.
Like who did he look up to? Like random one trick on the ladder that was really good. It's such a different pace, but ultimately making it here, despite not having that knowledge, despite not knowing anything about the history, I think is such a testament to how good he has been, the road that has got him here. Unfortunately, as good as he was to get here, he and Astralis have certainly been struggling. This is pretty much a must-win game for both these teams. It is do or die. It is only week 4, but it feels like we're already like writing the obituary, which is a dark place to be.
You really have to think about the consequences of winning this game specifically for both sides, because when you look at qualifying for playoffs, typically you need 9 wins. Teams have qualified on things like 7, 8 wins before, but when you're at a point where you're close to that 0-8 spot, the only other team that have done that is Schalke and their miracle run back in 2020. So you can't just rely on a miracle run to turn your season around, and that's why wins like this are the most important if you have playoffs as a goal.
Okay, and Neymar, miracles aside, because it's great. Gilius is on one of these teams. Schalke had that crazy Zanzara run at the end of the season. We could, cross our fingers for a miracle. But miracles aside, where do we actually need to look when it comes to improvement for these teams, areas we can focus on, either from the team perspective or from the audience perspective? Because I think everyone's just looking for something to believe in.
Well, if you're asking me if I believe in miracles, I'd say absolutely not. I think that both of these teams have a lot of people that have needed to stand up. I think we've looked at their junglers in particular, actually, when we were prepping for this and saying, actually, early game, these junglers are not getting involved. And you look at the rest of the league, that's how a lot of these teams are defining the meta right now. That's where it starts. It doesn't finish there, unfortunately, for both of these teams, because it's a very widespread issue. Heck, you look at Astralis over the last week, they've been posting twit-longers about how the team's been faring and all this other stuff. It's dire straits for both of these teams, but it does give you the window, however, to have that moment of vindication if you do take this important victory.
Absolutely is the case, and I think a really difficult position to be in. And again, to go back to what Astralis posted, it's not roster change, it's not crazy overhaul. They've talked about the chaos behind the scenes. And when you are this far down, I imagine the littlest thing can just make it that much worse, or you're hoping, again, not to say that it's a miracle, but when you just need to find that first win, and it's a difficult thing. But the good news for both these teams are you're against the other team that's been struggling.
Yep.
If you can find a win here, it's the start of something. I'm not going to try to sell it to you at home that this is the turning point in the split, but we might look back 3 weeks from now if they are able to grab more wins, if they are able to put more wins on the board, and say, in hindsight, this was the moment that changed
it. Both struggling teams are in very much need of a win, and this could very well be the confidence booster that bolsters one of them into the direction of playoffs. Of course, playoffs is still a long way away. Many things can happen. We've seen many crazy things happen in the race between now and then, but right now, both these teams are in desperate need of a win, and they're going to do everything in their power to get it.
But the darker the night, the brighter the day when the hero steps out into it. So kind of the task for both of these teams now is to have that hero moment from someone. Now, it could literally be anyone on these teams because it is kind of like a failure across the board in a lot of ways in a lot of these roles, but it does give that unprecedented opportunity to, again, have this big moment.
Gilius, God at least in, or Zanzara, I don't know, give us the way. I don't know, Zanzara, we need more Zanzara runs. Let me know what you've got. In the meantime, let's get into draft for SK versus Astralis to find out who will take this important win. Dagda and Oshin, take it away.